Still life painting, sorry.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Yes, so before we get started, I just want to give a shout out to Ricardo because he made all of this happen. He does this every month, and the fact that it's like crazy holiday times and you all chose to be here, that's saying a lot because it's kind of crazy out there.
We don't want to spend time with our families.
Also, number two, I want to thank you all for being here. I love talking to people about art, and the world is crazy, so that is a really nice escape. So escape with me for just a few minutes tonight. We're going to talk about art. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so my name is Adrienne Lee. I always have to put that on the slide because I forget to introduce myself. I go by the Wandering Art Historian because I am an independent freelance art historian. If you can believe it, it's the weirdest job ever, but it's the best. It also proves that anything can be a gig job because that's how I operate. I'm not associated with any art institution in particular. I work with different art institutions to help beef up their art appreciation classes, presentative, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. Okay, cool? For me, here's our little title. I call it Art History Trending because being an art historian is kind of like being an art detective. Our number one goal is to find out why. Why did the artist create the art? Why did they use those materials? Why did they use that subject matter, et cetera, et cetera? And detectives look for clues and for patterns. And so we look at the art to look for those clues and put those patterns together to see if we can kind of come up with something, an answer, if you will. And with trends, I kind of noticed something like pop culture trends go really fast nowadays because of the internet and social media. Like what was cool yesterday is not cool today. But what's very interesting to me is that human nature hasn't really changed all that much in the last few millennia, I think. Communication has advanced, and medicine, and science, and transportation. All of that has progressed and has gotten fast and easy and blah. But humans were kind of the same, right? Okay? We still get jealous, we still get angry, we still get braggy and frustrated and blah, blah, blah. None of that has ever changed. So I see a really interesting thread between our human nature and with our pop culture today and things that happen throughout art history, okay? And that's why I want to talk about Foodie Pics and the Dutch Baroque still life paintings. How exciting is that, right? Who here has taken a Foodie pic? Yes? If you did not raise your hand, you're a liar. Okay, we've all done it, and I don't fault you for it. You will see my Foodie pics tonight. Why the Dutch Baroque still life paintings? Well, we're gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about why still life paintings are important. We're gonna talk about why the Dutch Baroque period was super important and how it all ties together. For me, history is the written record of our shared human experience. So art history is the visual companion to that. Do you kind of get that? Because humans, we like pictures. I don't know about you, but I like pictures. I was terrible at math. Art history is perfect, right? Okay? We have always wanted to capture our own image, right? And the images of others. We can do it super easy now because we all carry that gadget that has a camera and we can send it out into cyberspace within seconds, right? However, artists have always been capturing their own image in the form of selfies, if you will. Some of our most beloved artists were known for their self-portraits. Let's see here. Who's this first guy? Who's this first guy?
Rembrandt.
Rembrandt van Rijn. Excellent, excellent. Who's this guy? Oh, this is, I do kind of a give and take. Is that cool?
Yeah.
I forgot to warn you. Okay, we're doing it anyway. And then who's this? Frida Kahlo. All of them known for their self-portraits or selfies. And they all did them for various different reasons. That would be another good nerd night. Just throwing that out there. We'll talk about that later. Okay. But what's very important is these artists. What do you notice about all four of these artists?
Women.
Yeah. So during the Renaissance and Baroque periods, it was super, super important for women artists to do self-portraits, because this is the origin of Pics or It Didn't Happen, right? Do you remember that trend? What was that, like 8 years ago? Pics or It Didn't Happen. Pics or It Didn't Happen. Women artists had to paint themselves in the act of painting to prove that they were painters. And even then, sometimes they weren't believed. And over the course of art history, some of their paintings were still attributed to male artists. Oh, fun times, art history, fun times. So let's talk about the importance of still lifes. Everyone's favorite thing when you go to a museum and you walk into that gallery and all you see are bowls of fruit as far as the eye can see, and you're like, yes, still lifes. Super boring. Actually not. Super important. Here's why. Okay, so here what you're looking at is the definition. Does it surprise you? No, super easy. It's just an arrangement of objects, right? A drawing or a painting of an arrangement of objects, okay? And what you're looking at here is a still life from Rome around like 65 to 79 AD, okay, something like that. And what's really interesting about the definition of still life paintings is the fact that it's this kind of seemingly casual arrangement. I just happened upon these items and I arranged them in a really interesting way to look at them, etc., but all very intentional and deliberate, right? Okay. Super important for artists. Why? It's free. It's free. You just go around your studio and you collect some objects and you set it up, and then you can draw and paint. And it's super important because that's how you hone your skill and your talent, and you develop your technique. Draw, paint, over and over and over again. And if you have no money to pay for a model to come in and draw or paint them, you draw and paint your objects, right? Another good reason, if you set it up properly in your studio so that you can go 360 around your still life objects, then you can draw and paint them from different angles, kind of studying how light and shadow affects those objects. And if you've picked an interesting arrangement of objects, all different types of things, glass, fabric, metal, fruit, vegetables, meats, cheeses, whatever, I think it makes it's definitely something that's more interesting to look at, but it also acts to the artist's benefit because it becomes a visual resume. Okay, it's basically the artist being a little braggadocious and saying, look how talented I am. Look at all of the things I can paint. I can paint fabric. I can paint metal. This is how artists talk, at least during the Baroque period. And basically, it was kind of like a calling card, a visual resume. Okay. What else? Oh, okay. Let's talk about why everything kind of comes together during the Baroque period. So has anyone ever taken an art history class where all you had to do was memorize the artist and the date and the movement, and then you were like, art history sucks? Right, okay, so you don't have to ever do that with me. I will just give you nice round numbers that you never have to memorize, and his art history will be awesome. Okay, so for the Baroque period, I want you to think, generally speaking, the 1600s, okay? And we're in the Netherlands. We're hanging out with the Dutch people. And the reason why it's called the Golden Age is for many reasons. Number one is this. It is heavy hitters like this, okay? This is just 4 artists who worked during this time. But there were hundreds, if not thousands, and they're all amazing and they're all phenomenal, but these 4 really stand out. So let's see if you know who they are. Who painted this? The Rembrandt, yes, excellent. We already had him in a previous slide. Who painted this? Frans Hals, yes, Frans Hals, who said it? Yeah, I heard it. He revolutionized group portraiture, okay. For those of you who were curious. This was painted by Judith Leister, a woman artist who was a contemporary of Frans Hals and whose work was often attributed to Frans Hals later because, I mean, who could believe that a woman was also a talented artist and just as good, if not better, than her contemporaries? How crazy. But what was really cool about Judith is that she did genre scenes inside taverns, which was very, unusual for a woman artist. Anyway, just stick that in your back pocket for the next time you're watching Jeopardy or on Jeopardy, as I've heard. Okay, and then who painted this? Vermeer, yeah, that was the giveaway. I could have put the girl with the pearl earring, but I thought it was too easy. So these four are working at this time, okay? So if you're like, all four of these artists are working at this time, holy smokes, the art that's coming out is phenomenal, okay? So that's golden age of Dutch Baroque painting. There's also another reason, and that's where we get our still lifes. Okay, so the Dutch during the 1600s, they are making bank. Okay, they are booming, their economy is just sky high, they have a ton of money to spend, they're very productive, they're map makers, shipbuilders, they're traveling the world, they're trading, they're merchants, all kinds of good stuff, okay? And they are making so much money and they're being so successful that they kind of want to show that off. And they don't have cell phones, so what do? They hire artists and they commission paintings. I read this amazing fact just the other day that between 1580 and 1800, in the Netherlands alone, there were upwards of 5,000 artists working, creating upwards of 9 to 10 million paintings, of which only 1% remains to this day. Their economy was booming and they were like, let's buy art. How about we get back to that, right? Okay, so they're buying art. They're like, we want to show off all of our stuff, so we're going to commission all these still life paintings, right? They were being braggadocious. They're like, look at all my cool shit. And the artists were like, oh my God, you have such cool shit. Let me paint that. And basically, it was like everything came together. Everything was serendipitous and perfect. The artists got to paint and show off all of their skill and technique. And the Dutch were like, look at all my cool shit. So it worked out great for everybody. And that's why we have all of these paintings where you're like, what the hell am I actually looking at here? It's not as boring as you think because there are hidden messages. Okay, so I get a little bit excited, so bear with me. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a still life, okay? Super fancy because we've got this beautiful drinking horn. Everyone's got one, I know. Maybe not this elaborate. Look at this beautiful lobster. And do you see it's the casual, nonchalant, just happenstance arrangement. All of that's deliberate, okay? And look at this, oh, see the artist is showing off. We've got a tapestry on the table, a table carpet. We've got some glasses, some fruit, super awesome, right? Okay, let's look at another one. Whoa, okay, so this type of still life painting, and forgive me if you speak Dutch because I'm about to butcher this word, it's called a pronksteleven. And basically it's an ostentation, over the top. And if you're looking at this and you're like, yeah, that's pretty over the top, just take a look. So we've got all kinds of stuff. Beautiful fabrics. We've got, do you notice that the fruit is just kind of like, we have so much. Look at all of our stuff. We're just gonna throw it out here. Okay, everybody, just take what you want. Okay, do you see all of the beautiful glassware and gold and metal and it's also a testament to the person who commissioned this too, because there's globes and books. That means they read and they travel and they're so smart and stuff like that. And here is a lute. Y'all know what the lute means, right? That's what it means. Okay, so still life's super important, right? The people are like, woohoo, okay, we have all this money, and the artists are like, woohoo, we'll take all of that, here's all the paintings. Okay, where do the foodie pics come in? Okay, everybody has to eat food, right? Okay, it's just nourishment, it's sustenance, okay? But there's something special about food. We bring people together, we have food during all of our celebrations, right? Weddings have food, funerals have food. We are constantly throwing food at you. And the thing about foodie pics is when the food is like extra special, you want to capture that shit, right? Brand new restaurant, everyone's talking about that brand new food truck, pop-up restaurant, stuff like that, okay? You want to capture that. I mean, we take pictures of the foam on our coffee. We're like, oh my God, they drew a cat. Like that kind of stuff, okay, right? we love food, and we're kind of a little braggadocious about it, right? We're like, I went to this cool place and I totally took a picture because Pixar didn't happen. So instead of picking on anyone, I would pick on myself. Here are some foodie pics. So like we hosted, my husband and I, he's here, he's nice. We hosted a viewing party for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And you notice like we had the aesthetic, like you arrange the napkins and you have the movie food and stuff like that. It was so cool. And then this one I call Still Life at Fringe Festival because the Fringe Festival is the best festival, right? We all go to Fringe? Okay, good. But again, it's like all the little clues. It's all the little symbols, right? Because we got our mini donuts, we got our beer, because we're at the beer tent, we got our program, we got our pizza. You know, we're at Fringe. The Nutella Cafe in Chicago, it's all Nutella. Like everything in the Nutella. I had to take a picture of that. And then I did this cool thing. We went to this cool place during Halloween and the drinks were awesome and they were spooky. And I was like, I gotta get a picture of that. And so I did. So if you end up following me on Instagram after this, you're gonna see all of these and more. But here is the crazy thing. The one connection I haven't been able to make yet is that we're totally cool with being kind of like braggadocious about this and be like, oh, so cool, blah, blah, blah. However, the Dutch were super, super religious. They were very strict Calvinists. And here's the thing about being braggadocious. Pride is a sin, right? How do you balance that out with being like, look at our economy is booming and look at all my cool shit and whatever. You gotta hide stuff in those paintings that are kind of like, you know what? Life is fleeting. You can't take it with you. Can't take it with you, right? That kind of thing. So it's kind of like this weird humble brag kind of thing where it's like, look at all my cool stuff, but I know that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? So you're gonna hear two different phrases when you see still life paintings like this. Number one is vanitas. Has anybody heard of a vanitas before? It's Latin for emptiness, basically the emptiness of life. And basically it was the Dutch way of being like, look at all my cool stuff, but I have to leave it all behind when I go to heaven. And then you'll also hear the term memento mori. Has anyone heard that? Okay, that's also Latin for remember that we die. Isn't this perfect for this wonderful holiday season? Death, yay. Okay, so you're gonna hear those two phrases kind of interchangeable with these kinds of still lifes. So let me show you some of the cool stuff, okay? Because then when you go to a museum with somebody who didn't come tonight, you get to like show off what you know, and it's gonna be awesome. And you're gonna look badass. I mean, art historically speaking. So that only gets you so far. Okay, spooky skull, right? Okay, that one's pretty obvious, right? What does the skull mean? Death, hooray. Okay, so we've got this big skull. Do you notice that it's on a book, but the book is closed? Yes. That means something. That means something. The book of your life, closed. No more story to tell. Ooh, super dark, right? Okay. It gets darker. Check out this awesome inkwell with quill. Do you notice that it's tipped over? But do you see any ink pouring out? Your story, there's no more ink to write the story of your life. Pretty dark. Yeah. Okay. Do you notice that this glass is not only empty, but it's tipped over? Death. Do you notice that we've got this kind of like candle holder thing here? We don't see a candle, but do you see right here is this tiny little flicker of a flame, but more the smoky thing. That's a match that has gone out. The transience of life. Life is over. Okay. How spooky is that? Okay, let's look at more. Ooh, now you can start to see it though, right? So here's the Dutch way of saying, yes, I can afford all of these paintings. Yes, I'm super successful. I can bring cool objects back with me from all of my travels, which you kind of see here. But also, I am a devout Calvinist, and I know I can't take it with me. I'm super religious. Pride is a sin. Look at all my cool shit. Okay, so big skull, right in the center. the book in the process of closing. Somehow that's even creepier, right? In the process of closing. We've got some pipes. We've got another overturned glass, a little decanter over here, right? We've got a beautiful, what looks like a katana, so coming from the east. We've got a drinking gourd. We could do a whole thing on drinking gourds. We're not gonna do that. Do you notice we've got this beautiful candle with the last flicker of light? Okay. Also, I want to draw your attention to the beautiful heavenly light shining down. Do you see that? That beautiful diagonal line moving your eye through the painting. But also check out this shell. Now the shell is super cool because it's kind of a shout out to the fact that they're map makers, shipbuilders, merchants traveling the seas, export, import, all that kind of stuff. But think about this. The only way you get that shell is when what happens? The creature inside it dies. Death, yeah, cool, okay. So now, do you notice also super dark, right? Okay, no heavenly light here. However, even something like this has the little symbols hidden in it, okay? You can probably pick them out now, because you've only looked at a few, but you kind of get the gist, right? Death, the end of life, pretty much it. Okay, so basically we've got our overturned thing also pointed away, right? Pointed away. And you're like, okay, we've got all our fruit, okay, wonderful. But think about this, it's a peeled orange and it's a cut melon. How long does fruit last once it's been cut? Not long, like life, right? Okay, also our lobster, it only turns red when it's dead, right? Okay, and then you can kind of see it off to the side here. Do you see this little round object? It's a pocket watch. So anytime you got something that's tells time and a piece of art, death. And because this pocket watch, not with the person, on the table, closed up, death. Awesome. See how wonderful art history is? Thank you so much. If you want to hang out with me on social media, I have a blog, a YouTube channel. You guys are awesome. Thank you. Sorry, I never get to do this, but if you want to ask questions or something, if you want to see another slide, I don't know, you want to talk more about death, I mean, I'm not a therapist, but...
I have a question.
Ricardo.
So my first question is, I'm embarrassed to say this, but when you said the loot, I just thought Dungeons and Dragons, and I just thought music. I didn't know it had anything to do with sex.
Okay, so you want to know a little bit of backstory on the loot thing?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a whole thing. I'll give you the Cliff's Notes. Okay, so typically when you see musical instruments in paintings, okay, you're like, oh, well, it represents music, but it's a little something more, okay, because symbolism kind of works on a lot of levels. When it comes to music, it's usually associated with romantic love. Oh, isn't that sweet? Oh, romantic love. However, for the Dutch, the lute represented sex, not necessarily romantic love, like going to the tavern, hitting the brothel after that, kind of hooking up with a prostitute later. And in fact, we see in a lot of procurus scenes, which is a nice way of saying prostitution paintings, that the prostitute is playing a lute, okay, to entice, those romantic feelings that are definitely temporary and also cost you money. And also, I want to do this in a way that is not grotesque, but the act of plucking the strings. Yeah, the Dutch were nasty, which is probably why this is one of my favorite time periods. Anyway, that's the story about the lute.
Thank you. I saw music. I didn't know this. Keep it going for Adrian, please. That was good. Also, another thing I learned is when she said it with the lobsters, I'm like, oh, Red Lobster.
That's why it's Red Lobster.
That's why.
I'm like the 40-year-old virgin because I didn't know the Lou thing, but I'm also like kind of dumb because I didn't know Red Lobster. But I thought that was like, oh, it's ready to eat, but that means it's dead. It's ready to eat because you don't eat it. Anyway, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break.